Hey, welcome to the Rhona Morrell podcast. So do you ever feel like screaming out in the office, on Zoom or outside the school gates? For the love of God, come on, really? Then if this is you and you're looking for an honest, fun and frank podcast on life and business, then sit back and listen to me, Rhona Morrell. I'll be bringing great people on the show to talk, share and debate their life experiences and business challenges, keeping the show unpolished, but in a fun and unique British style, with sarcasm, tenacity, or maybe a few swear words or tears. This podcast keeps it real, honest, raw, and removes the bullshit in the only way I know how, through authenticity and getting shit done. Think of it less like the Housewives of New York or Towie with the lipo and drama, and more like the house lives of the real world. I hope you'll take something away to be better informed, laugh, smile, or maybe even finally getting the confidence to shout, come on really. So enjoy. Hi, welcome to the Rhona Morrell podcast. I am so excited to introduce Frank Versteegh. Frank and I first met a long time ago during my Red Bull days, and I had the honour of looking after the pilots. And as part of that, I met Frank, and has always resonated with me in terms of my personality, his sense of passion, precision, and absolute hilarious humour. And so I followed him over the years, and Frank has done a lot in the world of aviation, has flown in nearly every country around the world, over 1,400 air shows, and he's used that expertise now to bring to the world and does a lot of speaking on risk management, fear, and we'll kind of touch on some of those things today. But also Frank now travels primarily in Africa, so I'm very jealous right now during COVID, teaching young pilots the good old stick and rudder flying, no buttons and automation. So Frank, welcome to the Rhona Morrell podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Rhona. It's an honor, and most important, it's a great pleasure to see you again after, I think, 11 years.
Exactly. I can't believe it's been that long. And I guess what I'd love the listeners to learn more about is how you've learned to kind of, I guess, adapt from your career, but tell us more about what you speak in terms of fear and kind of risk taking, and how you apply that to a lot of the coaching and organizations you talk to.
Yeah, it started more than 25 years ago when I was still flying air shows. And I had a friend, he was a surgeon, and he once flew with me, and I took him upside down. And then I invited myself, and I said, listen, I want you to take me to a nice operation, to the operation room. I want to have a look how you guys work. And then after a little while, he called me at 12 o'clock at night. And his opening sentence was, a triple shot wound. Is that interesting enough? Oh my gosh, I'm on my way. So I quickly jumped on my motorbike, drove to the hospital. And I spent the whole night in the operation theater looking at how the guys were working. And for me, I learned so much that night, that when we were drinking coffee in the morning, I asked him, has this been a normal operation, or were there a lot of things going wrong? Because I saw a lot of things going wrong. And he said, no, that's not too bad. It's quite normal. I said, well, that's interesting, because in aviation, if we would work this way, I can tell you, we would have been crashed 3 times last night. And that meant we would have been dead. And fortunately, your patient survived. So that gave me food for thought.
Mm.
And I started to develop a keynote speech, especially for, let's say, the cutting medical specialists, surgeons. And then I went to the hospital in the city I live nearby. And I went to the safety manager. I said, listen, hi, I'm Frank Versteegh. I'm a pilot. I'm preparing a keynote speech about risk management, especially focused on operation theater. Would it be possible to have a look at a couple of more operations, procedures? And his first reply was, fantastic. You're more than welcome. Tell me whatever you like. And so what happened, I spent 2 weeks in the hospital every day. I went every day to the hospital, and I've seen the most fantastic surgeries. And but I've also seen, and this was 25 years ago. I've seen, well, mistakes of which I say, oh my gosh. And one of the interesting things is that the egos in the hospital of the doctors, they are quite well comparable with the egos of captains, of pilots. Um, and so for me, it was quite easy to speak about egos, because the first answer in the beginning was, sorry, when last time did you look at yourself? Yep, I look at myself on a regular basis in the mirror. And I hope you're going to be as self-critical as I think
Yeah.
I am. So I was invited to do my first keynote speech in the Groningen Hospital in the north of our country. That's a university hospital. And I did 2 sessions, an afternoon session and an evening session, to make sure that all the guys on duty could hear the story. And as a matter of fact, from that moment, the snowball started rolling.
Yeah.
Automatically, people started calling, "Hey, we're here. You have a great story. Can you do it in our hospital?" And from hospitals, it slowly, the word spread, and I also started to other kind of industries. And at this moment, I've been basically speaking to almost all imaginable industries, from dredging in Dubai, offshore industry, undertakers, insurance companies, schools. The only thing I'm still looking forward is to talk to two groups. They never asked me, which is journalists, and you can imagine, because they have
Oh.
very long toes. And the second group is bankers, because the bankers, they know that I'm going to lock the door, and I will not let them out before I'm finished with my story. So
Do you
that's
know?
basically in a nutshell what I did in keynote speaking. And then when COVID hit the world,
Mm,
of course, everything, the whole market collapsed. Also, my keynote speaking market, and which is a part of my income now. And I'm not complaining, because I can still buy bread and orange juice.
yeah.
But I noticed what was happening with the world, and therefore, excuse me. Therefore, it's so interesting that we are talking now, because I developed a keynote speech about fear. I
Mm,
saw that fear took over the world. And let me do a first quote. That is, that if you have a serious crisis, never have a crisis managed by politicians. First of all, they are not educated for it, and they have agendas. There's
yeah.
always something behind. I mean, it's much better to have a crisis managed by guys who are professionally educated in managing crisis. But so I noticed everybody is getting more afraid, and fear got in. And I happen to have a nephew, young chap, 25 years. He finished his university degree in psychology, and he did a master in behavioral changes. And then I thought,
Wow.
that's what we need. So we sat together days and days and days. He as a young chap, I was the old fart.
Just a little bit older.
Yes, what is 50 years extra? And so we developed a keynote speech about fear, and I did the first keynote speech. Unfortunately, we had to make it a webinar, but it's so interesting to see what fear is doing to the world. And
Mm,
as I speak to you now, and you can see, I'm not dressed in a European way. Um, and you see, if you look carefully, you see palm trees behind me, because I'm in Tanzania. I'm at the banks of the Lake Victoria at this moment, that's the biggest inland lake in Africa. And what I notice in this country, in Tanzania, people are not afraid.
okay.
And that is a huge difference. And that doesn't mean that there's no corona here. although the president says there's no corona. There is, if people die here, they die of pneumonia. Well, and that's exactly the same we heard 25 years ago when Thabo Mbeki in South Africa said, AIDS? No, there's no AIDS here. People die of pneumonia. And so we, from the Western world, think ridiculous, irresponsible, unacceptable. We have all kind of words for that. But what I see, I'm surrounded here by happy people.
Yeah.
People are smiling. They are walking outside. They are mingling more than is healthy for them. But the climate here is fantastic. And this is the climate what basically is hated by COVID, by the coronavirus doesn't
sunshine
like.
And
No, sunshine, high temperatures and what have you. And I'm here now for a month and I'm going to stay an extra 2 months. When I arrived, the first, let's say, 2 weeks, I brought a little bit of fear from Europe, my own fear. And of course, in the beginning, I went from incubation time to incubation time. So I thought, now I met him, I met her, I've been in the car with him, and oh my gosh. So when I survive the next 10 days, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But now it's what we have, end of January. And well, I think I still look quite healthy. Please confirm.
Looking fantastic.
I don't feel sick. I'm very well prepared. Yesterday, I went to the shop, to the pharmacy, and I bought. No. It's not a condom. I mean, Rhona.
I say it's a small one.
In Africa. So and I'm only the Mzungu. I'm the white guy. So no, this is a malaria self-test.
Okay.
And I have no issues, but I decided, well, I'm on the Lake Victoria. It's rainy season. There's a lot of pools, so there is a lot of malaria around. So I thought, well, let's be clever. So I went to the pharmacy. I bought a test, and I did one yesterday. I decided, do a self-test, and then within 20 minutes, I have malaria.
Have you?
No, of course not. I'm good.
Don't do that.
I don't have malaria, but what I also did is I bought the medicine they use here for everybody. So if you have malaria, this is the stuff they use. And I always carry a medikit with me in my car with all kind of medication when the shit hits the fan. Yeah. And this is new to me. It's a 3-day cure. So every day you take 2 pills, and after 3 days, boom, malaria is gone, and you're good. So that's my life in Tanzania now, and I've been traveling around from game farms to I've been chasing the lions, and I've been watching the elephant, and it's awesome. And the interesting story is that I stayed with a friend in Arusha. He's a game ranger.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic guy. He's my size. He's black as tonight. Standby shirt. Somebody wants to come in. And this is live. Ladies, I'm in an interview, and that will take. Say hi to the interview. Hello.
Hi.
This is Europe, and I will. Can you come back in 35 minutes? Asante sana. Thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption, but I mean, this is adding some flavor.
Live, of course.
Yeah, it's live.
Interesting though, what's interesting for me is that obviously you've gone to a country and you've gone and bought the malaria test and you've bought the medicine just in case, but actually you've not once mentioned, masks or COVID or you're not planned or prepared for that. Is it because you've just decided you live your life, you're going to do as they are doing in Tanzania, or?
Yeah, I keep more social distance than the average Tanzanian.
Yeah.
But because you must realize, our politicians, and that's basically worldwide, got us in the jail because they've only been preaching fear, fear, fear. Everybody is scared to shit.
Yeah.
And I speak to my friends in the Netherlands on a daily basis, and oh my gosh, the stories, they're all close to depression.
Yeah.
And of course they want to kill me because I walk around in shorts and I drink beer on the lake Lake Victoria. But what happened, and that's of course a reality check. The friend I stayed with, and he lives in Arusha, tall guy, black as the night. I love him to death. And we've been cruising around, and what happened after a week after I left, he said, "Yeah, I'm not feeling very well. I'm going to hospital," and then they diagnosed him with an ulcer, stomach ulcer, and okay. I thought that's interesting. So I told him, so you better stop drinking ginger tea, because he tells me drink a lot of ginger tea because that's good. And then they released him from hospital. And then 2 days later, his wife told me he's back in hospital. And he sent me a picture of himself with a cannula in his nose.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's interesting. They have a new way of treatment against stomach ulcers. They give oxygen. Ha ha, bingo. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So that was 100% case of he has corona. So I told him, listen, it's time to speak now. But the majority of the people here are extremely religious,
Yeah.
and God is almighty, and they believe that God will take care of them.
Yeah.
And even if they're in hospital, because you will not believe, well, I think you will, the chats I have with his wife and how I talk to her. Listen, you have to go for a test because you are infectious. You can spread the virus to other people. I mean, you've been with that man in the same bed.
Yeah.
And so, and then after 2 days, I asked her, listen, and a test is costly here.
I was
So
going to say, do they have to pay?
yeah, they have to pay. Yeah, and for them, for the average income they have here, that's nothing. And the industry here, the tourism industry is hit so bad that people, when I drive around, you might heard the story. I bought a car in Australia. I drove it across through Australia, shipped it to Dar es Salaam, and now my little car is here. And let me show you what I just
No
got.
way.
Yeah, yeah. Wait. So this morning I got a little gift from a guy I met here, and he made me a cap. And of course, the cap says Hakuna
Hakuna
Matata.
Matata.
And you know Hakuna Matata. But on the backside, the name of my car.
Skippy.
Hey, so I drive around in Skippy. And but then after 2 days, I asked my friend's wife again, did you do the test? And her answer was, no. But I take a lot of vitamin C and I pray a lot.
Yeah.
And that is the reality here in Tanzania. And I'm here now for a month.
So their belief then that I suppose it's not driving fear. Do they recognize that coronavirus exists? It's just that their belief in God and the weather and vitamin C, that I guess they're just continuing to live their lives.
Yeah, it's denied by the president, because the president thinks I'm not going to have my country ruined by fear, which is I mean, if you know Africa a little bit,
Yeah.
which is an understandable approach. I mean, we in Europe always think we take our matrix of thinking, this is the way it is, and we have our thing. No, this is not good. You have to do it this way. But there are different ways.
Yeah.
And in Europe, people are dying. In Tanzania, people are dying. But I mean, the amount of laughs I have here every day. Well, you just saw it. The girls come to clean my room.
Yeah.
Hakuna Matata. Good morning, Mr. Frank. How are you? You stay 2 days extra. We are so happy. That's good for us. And I mean, I'm surrounded by happy people. And what is better? Being surrounded by grumpy people dying, or being surrounded by happy people dying? Tell me. I don't know.
It's really interesting. I had a call with someone yesterday who'd been based in the UK, excuse me, for many years, and they had an opportunity to get back to the States, and they could kind of see what's going on. And he said the same. He went, look, we've come to the States. Yes, there's massive death here. Yes, coronavirus is here, but we are happy. We have interaction. We're still social distancing, but we've got the sunshine. We're interacting. I went for coffee this morning, and yeah, I guess if I had to put my stake in the ground now, I'd be like, it couldn't get for me any worse. Here we have no movement, no interaction, no life. We have one of the highest death rates in the world, and yet the knock-on impact to my children and to the way we're feeling, it's really bloody hard. And if I could, I mean, my background is I brought the tropics to my office just because I needed a space that was happy, and I can't travel at the moment. So yes, I'm sure all the listeners will be stupendously jealous that you're getting to do that. And I think for anyone who's traveled in Africa, I've done quite a bit in Kenya, Uganda, South Africa. I actually got married in Africa in the Sahara Desert. So it's a beautiful nation with stunningly beautiful people, and the happiness that exudes from that country anyway is infectious. It is like a drug. So I can understand why you're there, and I can understand why.
I'm writing travel blogs at a very nice app, and you should follow it. It's called Polar Steps. Polar Steps.
Yeah.
It is stunning to see how happy children are. I mean, the children here are happy with everything, and they have nothing. The children in Europe have everything and are happy with nothing.
You know what? You've hit the note.
And that's a big warning for all people who think they are good parents, because the majority of the people I know are not good parents at all. They think they are good parents, up yours, but they are not. They are creating spoiled monsters, and those spoiled monsters, they are going to be parents again in 25 years.
Yeah, and you've hit the nail on the head. And one thing that will always stay with me for as long as I live was when I went traveling after university. And the first country I went to was South Africa. And I actually spent some time in a township, and I got a couple of football shirts and I gave them, and I played pool and taught a class in the school. And when I got home from that trip, even now, I've never been that happy with absolutely nothing to my name, no possessions, no money. I lived week to week, and my girls are constantly told and reminded this. So when I took them to Bali a couple of years ago, we went to an orphanage every week. We were there for 5 weeks. And I said, these are the worlds and the lives that you need to understand and see. And so you're absolutely right. When my kid says I'm bored, I'm like, whatever, good. I'm glad you're bloody bored. So yeah, the more of that, and you're so right when you look at the joy on their, because all we see as the Western world a lot of the time is the obviously the famine and the drought, all of those things. But equally, when you spend time in Africa, you see that humor. That I love the way they can play with anything, like literally can play with anything for hours on end. And that's what I want to give my children, and that reality. What I want to jump back a little bit. What I found really interesting about what you've done is how you've taken the fear of, or the risks and the dangers of being a stunt pilot and then an operating theatre. And I love it when two different worlds kind of collide, and you can then relate that. And as you've built over time all these industries, what can you share with us around some of the common themes that you find when you're talking about risk, death, and fear?
Well, that depends a lot about which fields of operation you talk to. For instance, if I talk to people in the chemical industry, 9 out of 10 times when I enter the company, it feels like jumping in a warm bath. The awareness of safety is very high. They are very aware of, if I make a little mistake, this whole factory can blow up or whatever, or my colleague can die. There are also fields where that awareness needs to be sharpened up a little bit, understatement, and then I'm not teaching, I'm not preaching, I'm sharing. So I'm showing our own stupidities in, for instance, in the air race, because we had quite a few giant stupidities and people almost killing themselves. And if you share experiences like that in the open, people realize, yeah, can happen to me, because it's a behavioral thing.
Yeah.
I always say safety is an attitude.
Right. Yeah.
And attitude kills. If you have the wrong attitude, you're going to kill yourself, or worse, you're going to kill other people. And but there's a big variation, and there's sometimes well, I always say when I go to my next keynote speech, what a fantastic job. They pay me to learn, because I can ask everybody in the company any question, because I'm there going to the guy who's going to speak about risk management and safety. So
Yeah.
the manager, the boss, everybody talks to me, and I get all the inside information, and I feel like big funnel, throw it in me, and all that experience is very useful to share later with other companies.
Exactly. And I think that's a really interesting point, because I guess since I left the world, the kind of the corporate world, and I've been consulting, that's one of the things I've absolutely loved. I've loved dealing with, I've gone from lighting to drinks to clothing manufacturers, charities, and just sucking up all of that knowledge. Even doing these podcasts, every single guest has taught me something, and capturing all those amazing quotes, and the energy that brings to you, and the roundness and the experience, the empathy. And I think that's what people possibly miss when they're in a big organization, because like you just said, a lot of the time as a consultant, you're given access to everyone, and people, maybe it's just a trick of you and I sometimes, but people will open up to you and tell you things that they're not necessarily sharing with their line managers or peers. And I just find that so rewarding.
Yeah, and another thing is, as you get older, your view on the world and how things are change a bit, like how we treat each other, how we look at the food industry, how I compare marketing managers to bankers. They create needs who are not necessary at all. It's ridiculous how we change into a consuming market. We should be, I'm so into less is more, and what you said in the beginning, I often say, I would prefer to have nothing anymore. I'm the happiest man with my little backpack in my shorts, flip-flops, hat on, and that's it, because now I still have to do my annual bookkeeping, that kind of crap. And my bookkeeper, nice story, he wrote me, well, Frank, now you're in Wi-Fi area. We have to talk about the annual
Yeah.
numbers. And then I said, listen, I pay you money to take care of my finance. Do it well. I put my signature. And at this moment, I'm not interested in any way, in any number, any figure, how my business is doing. I don't give a shit.
Because you're happy and you're doing what you love doing.
That's it. That's it. And it's not about more. I just sponsored a borehole here in Arusha. There were people living in a house, and there was a house under construction,
Yeah.
and there was only buckets with water they had to get at the neighbor. And I thought, my gosh. And so I said, when will the water be here? When's the water come? Well, the government said, well, yeah, it's going to be here soon. But that was 5 years ago.
Oh God.
And another thing, For instance, in Tanzania, if you look at Google Earth and you zoom in on Tanzania, you first have, and you come from Europe, you see the Sahara, dry. Then you come to the equator, and at once everything is green.
Yeah.
This is greenest part of the world. There are not a lot of parts on Earth where there's more rain than here.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the people have no drinking water. Why?
Where's it going?
Why? Because there's all levels of corruption where people make money by selling their jerry cans, and now they are against running water out of the tap. And I've been taking pictures and I posted them on Insta and on Polar Steps of little children too small to ride the bike they push with 60 liters of water on the bike. That's 60 kilo, and those little 6-year-old children pushing the bike bring water home because they have no water at home. And that makes me so incredibly humble that I instantly said, okay, what's the price of a borehole? And I paid quite a bit of money for it. We drilled the hole 100 meters deep. The pump is going to be installed. And within a few weeks, that whole house and area has drinking water. The people have been crying, and Rhona, I've been crying. Really, I could not keep my eyes dry. I was so emotional when I saw the incredible happiness of those people that for the first time in their life they got water, and the way we deal with water in our world. We wash the car, we flush the toilet with the most expensive stuff you have, drinking water. I mean, we have no idea in what kind of world we are living.
I think the very meaning of the word consumption is actually repeated waste when you dig down to what that word actually means. And like you say, they've had broken promises, they've waited, and in our eyes, all you've done is provided a tap. For that community, you've provided a tap, clean water. And from what you said, I genuinely didn't know that in terms of the amount of rainfall in Tanzania, that is a natural resource that's just sitting there waiting for all of these people to access. And like you say, it's for me, it's like that every drop of water. I'm kind of working with ARC 2030, which is this global climate change initiative. And everything that we do, even in this house, is like, don't run the tap when you're brushing your teeth. If you've got water left in your cup, don't tip it down the sink, go and put it on the plants, go and put it in the dog bowl. It's that kind of mentality around, and I know we're not the best, we could improve greatly, but I wish I could transport everyone in the world to a place in, be it Africa, South America, Asia, and let them all invest in one initiative that we take for granted and see the joy that would bring globally. The wealth across this world is outstanding, and the divide is even greater, and it deeply saddens me. And my commitment is always to educate my children around those differences, take them to those countries. If my kid moans that they're starving, I put on a video to bring them some perspective around what that actually means. So listen, Frank, it's huge kudos to you for doing that. Please add in the photos. How long will it take? So from start to end, how long did it take for you to kind of get the job done, get it dug, equipment come in? How long will it take?
It was unbelievable for South African standards, but including the permission from the government, 10 days. That's
amazing.
That's a miracle. I thought, well, I'm very happy when they start drilling before I leave the country again, end of March. But no, I have pictures. The hole is there, 100 meter deep. We can put the pump in, and yeah, baby, we have water.
So before you leave, you're going to see it finished.
Yeah, of course.
Amazing. Can I be really cheeky, Frank? How much did it cost you to actually do that?
6,000 euros.
Okay, so that's about £6,000. And so running water, clean water for a whole community, that's nothing, is it?
Well,
it is to a lot of people. I'm not underplaying.
Let's put it that way. It makes me extremely happy, and it makes the people extremely happy. So what do I have to say more?
Yeah, there's no cost and no price on
No,
that, is there?
no.
That's well, I look forward to the photos on the Polar and on Instagram. I follow you anyways, that's fine. Listen, I just wanted to, before you go, before I know you're busy and the cleaners will be knocking again in 5 minutes. Before you go, is there any advice that you could give to people, be it living this daily life in COVID or be it living in an organization? What's the best top tips you could give around dealing with, kind of fear and frustrations and risks, and how to enrich their lives better? Is there a couple of things that you could share with us?
Well, you might have heard that in the Netherlands, people are fighting on the street. There's riots. They burn stuff, and that's only, let's say, a micro percentage of the people, but they are a disgrace to our country. Um, the problem is that, and as I said, as I quoted Darwin, it's not the strongest race surviving, it's the people, it's the race surviving who's adapting the best to the changed situation. And we have to live through it. And unfortunately, we are governed by governments, politicians. They come up with solutions of which I sometimes think you lost it completely. It reminds me on Goebbels, World War II. If you lie enough, people start believing you lie. And there is COVID, and it is serious. And there are the pressure on the hospitals is too much. But for instance, in the Netherlands, the hospitals can't deal because the government cut down on all the hospital beds. They cut down on it's their own responsibility. But
Yeah.
as you know, politicians, they will never say sorry, and
They were wrong.
or that they were wrong. I mean, we the day before yesterday, I got the statistics. This is end of January. We have been vaccinating 3 weeks now, and the news was we vaccinated 1% of our population in 3 weeks. I think we're on the bottom of the list. And then what people did we vaccinate? The people over 90 years, 90.
Mm-hmm.
Rhona, shoot me. And I wish I would be able to bring more happiness to my friends in the Netherlands. But the sad thing is we have to hang in, and it's not over yet. But I think the government also hugely underestimates the side effect, the psychological side effect on young people, on students, on children like 14, 16, 18 years. They are locked up. They go berserk. They go crazy. I mean, it's unacceptable for them. They are free spirits to have a run around, and I wished I had an answer, and I wished I could do more, but it's and people. There are people who think I'm crazy, that I'm in Tanzania now. They think it's totally unresponsible that you go. And when you come back, you have to do 3 tests and you have to do a quarantine and all that kind of, And why do they say that? They're driven by fear.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I have not been driven my whole life. I've been not driven by fear. And maybe...
Well, when you do the things that you do in those planes, you can't.
If I would be a fearful person, I would have never been an air show and an air race pilot. And I survived the air race, and there's quite a few pilots I knew they didn't survive. And then I again say, some were unlucky, but for others, it's also attitude kills.
No, exactly. And I guess in that sentence, we've come full circle to when, we met and the air race, and our thoughts go out to the pilots who have passed away in the years since we've known each other. And listen, Frank, I want to end on a kind of the Frank that I know, on a super high, jovial note, because, your energy, I absolutely adore. And, we've gone quite deep and quite serious, and I think it's really important to do that. But give us a story, give me something to end this podcast on that is going to make me laugh. Like, what's the craziest thing that's happened to you? What's the most stupid thing that's ever happened to you that you're willing to admit on air? Come on.
Well, the interesting thing is, I'm just before we started this talk, I've been writing a letter to the biggest Dutch news agency, because the biggest news agency told me, you used one of our pictures on your website, and we're going to charge you money for it, and which is called the ANP, the General News Publication. It's the biggest news office. And the interesting thing is, what they don't know, that they, long time ago, I think 11 or 10 years ago, they took a picture of my airplane in a side slip over the runway, and they sold it to other kind of news stations. And I've been declared dead one time because of that picture. So that there was somebody in England killing themselves, and they used my picture. So that morning, all my friends called me, Frank, what the flip is happening? Are you dead? So that also means that my friends are not so clever. They call me when
and you've actually answered the phone. Yeah, I'm dead.
But that same picture is also used when they caught a German pilot who was drunk. So drunk pilot caught with the picture of my airplane, and everybody knows, as well, the yellow airplane with the red flames. Hey, that's Frankie Boy, and that's my trademark. So I've been writing a nice letter to this news agency. Oh my gosh, yeah, I feel so sorry that I used your picture. But isn't it a story of the pot and the kettle? And then, of course, I cannot remember that you asked my permission to take this picture and declare me dead, and that you asked me picture.
Or a drunk German.
Yeah. So I thought, right.
Awesome. Well, listen, Frank, I wish you every success with that letter. Please keep me posted on what the response is and the outcome. And just massive thanks for taking this time to talk to me and to help the listeners.
Did we really speak the full 5 minutes?
Yeah, we've been talking for 45 minutes.
Time flies when you're having fun, eh?
I know. And listen, one of the commitments I've made to myself, coming out of this, is just to reaching out to more people, more energetic people. And I know for damn fat, one day, Frank, you and I are going to sit somewhere having a coffee or a beer somewhere around the world. And I
prefer the last one.
Ditto. Yeah, I was just trying to be it is early in the morning. So, but yeah, listen, Frank, thank you so much. Have an amazing day, and lots of love, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Rhona. It was a pleasure. Looking forward to see you soon.
So that's it. You've made it. The show's over. Thank you for being with us. I hope you've been able to take something away, maybe solve a problem, or just know you're not alone. Here's hoping it made you smile with a few laughs along the way. Please feel free to find me on all social media channels, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search the Rhona Morrell podcast. Have an awesome day, and see you next time.